Okay, 6 o'clock. We have everybody.
Mr. Mayor, I think you're waiting on Councilmember Yamas, unless I don't.
Oh, I haven't. Okay, thank you very much. We'll give him a minute or two. There he is. Yep, we've got Mr. Yamas now. All right, we shall begin. Welcome to the September 15th, 2021 Los Banos City Council meeting. We are still virtual. We have established temporary email. You can send your public comment or for public hearings or public forum, and you can send them to the city clerk at losbanos.org. You can drop them off in the payment box, 520 J Street. You can mail them, 520 J Street, up to 250 words in your comments. Start this evening, we will begin with an invocation. And our invocation this evening will be delivered by Pastor Kathy Pignon, the Mercy Springs Church of the Nazarene.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for all your blessings and protection. We are thankful for our beautiful country and our city of Los Banos. We give you thanks for our mayor and our city leaders, our police and fire department, and all the first responders who protect us every day. I pray for the agenda set before us today. Please give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those working in and around our beloved city. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true need for our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I will now call the meeting to order at 6:03, and I will ask Acting Police Chief Hedden to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Now we'll go to roll call. Ms. Maloney?
Jones?
Present.
Lambert?
Here.
Lewis? Here. Lamas?
Here.
Faria?
Here. We have a quorum. We'll move to item 4, consideration of approval of agenda. Do I have a motion?
Councilmember Lambert.
Okay, I got Mr. Yamas first. So I have the motion by Mr. Yamas. And Mr. Lambert, did you want to second that?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Yamas, second by Councilmember Lambert to approve the agenda as submitted. Roll call, Ms. Maloney?
Jones?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lamas?
Yes.
Faria?
Yes. Motion carried unanimously. Agenda has been approved. Item 5, in the public forum today. Members of the public may address the city council members on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the city council. This includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items. Speakers may submit their comments with a written statement limited to 250 words or less by dropping it off in the utility payment box, City Hall, 520 J Street, by mail, or email to the city clerk at losbanos.org. Comments received will be read into the record during the city council meeting. Ms. Maloney, do we have any comments for our meeting this evening?
I've received one handwritten letter for item number 8.
Okay, so when we get to item 8, I will make a note to have that read at that time. Okay.
And I just checked my email. I've received no other comments.
All right, thank you. So then we will close the public forum and move on to the consideration of approval of the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be voted on in one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. Ms. Maloney?
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 228666 through 228871 in the amount of $748,141.58. Minutes for the September 1st, 2021 City Council meeting. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
Thank you. Does any council member wish to remove either item for either discussion or separate vote? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Councilmember Lambert.
Okay, I got Mr. Lambert.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you very much. Second?
Mr. Mayor, Yamas, I'll second that.
All right. So I have a motion by Councilmember Lambert, a second by Councilmember Yamas to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Ms. Maloney?
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Approve the consent agenda. We'll move on to item 7. Consideration of approval of the City Council Resolution number 6403, authorizing the acting city manager execute the congestion mitigation air quality assurance of timely project delivery form for the City of Los Banos Pioneer Road Widening, Pioneer Road, Ortigolita Road Signalization project. For this item, we go to Interim Public Works Director Bowersox.
Thank you and good evening. Honorable Mayor Faria, Mayor Pro Tem Lewis, Councilmember Jones, Lambert, and Yamas. The item that I have before you tonight is staff recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the acting city manager, to execute the congestion mitigation air quality assurance at timely project delivery form that would allow the city to receive $1.5 million in Cmac funding for the Pioneer Road or Ortigolita Road Signalization project. Next slide, please. In November 2019, the MCAG board adopted a policy to prioritize future funding for the Pioneer Road Widening project, which includes the following provisions. The City of Los Banos is eligible to receive up to 25% of available Cmac funding. If the City of Los Banos does not submit a reasonable application, other regional applications may receive the Cmac funds. The policy is project specific, and only the Pioneer Road Widening project or a reasonable phase of this project can access the set aside funds. Because the policy is project specific, the priority funding policy is not transferable. Next slide, please. On April 19th, 2021, City staff received notification that the MCAG board released the Cmac call for projects that made available approximately $6 million in funding. Based on the adopted policy, the City of Los Banos is eligible for up to 25% of the Cmac funding, approximately $1.5 million for the Pioneer Road Widening project. After several discussions with MCAG and the consultant, the city directed the consultant, Mark Thomas and Company, to prepare a Cmac funding application. Preparation of the application itself is included in the current consultant contract and was not an additional cost to the city. During coordination meetings with MCAG, the consultant, and the city, Pioneer Road or Ortigolita Road Signalization project was identified as a viable project that would meet the Cmac eligibility requirements and could be designed and constructed within a reasonable timeframe. Next slide, please. So this slide illustrates the high-level view of the ultimate Pioneer Road Widening project. With me today are both Ryan and Ed from Mark Thomas and Company. I'll allow them to introduce themselves, who will be discussing the details of the ultimate roadway design, including the phase 1 project that we are considering tonight.
Thank you, Nicole. Mayor, council members, my name is Ryan Bissiger with Mark Thomas. As Nicole mentioned, I have been assisting the city on the Pioneer Road project since Mark Fashion was with the city and the project was initiated with Mark Thomas. And I'm not sure if Ed is in front of a speaker or not, so we'll just continue here. And I just want to provide a brief overview of the project and bring everybody back kind of up to speed. So the Pioneer Road Widening project is going to construct a 4-lane median divided roadway with a Class 1 bi-directional path beginning just east of Los Banos Creek at a new intersection with State Route 152, Pacheco Boulevard, and continuing southward down to the existing Pioneer Road, where that new roadway, where Pioneer Road would be widened from the existing 2 lanes to the 4 lanes, continuing through to the Merced Springs intersection, Merced Springs State Route 165, when then it will change to a new roadway alignment, new road connecting over to Pioneer Road, and then we'll continue north on Pioneer Road and tie back into Pacheco Boulevard. Okay, next slide, please. For the Pioneer Road Ortigolita Road Signalized intersection project, on Pioneer Road, there are several intersections which have been identified for traffic signals, and the Ortigolita Road intersection is one of those locations. And this is a key component of the Pioneer Road overall project. And this intersection project can be delivered as a phase 1 and function as a standalone project, while still, in the future can be blended into and fit seamlessly with the ultimate Pioneer Road project. It's being set up to minimize any future throwaway costs with the design, so that way it all fits together well. There is no Caltrans right-of-way required. This was very important with our discussions with MCAG due to the delivery schedule of projects involving Caltrans. And lastly, what this project includes, in addition to installing the signalized the traffic signal, it widens the roadway approaches to 2 lanes in each direction. With raised medians, it adds right and left turn pockets, installs the Class 1 path on the roadway approaches, and as well as the ADA curb ramps. And so if you please go to the next slide. Here is a plan view of the intersection at Ortigolita, with Ortigolita Road running left to right, and north being in the right on the right side of the screen, and Pioneer Road running up and down. You can see here that the project does install those, does widen the roadway to the 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction on the roadway approaches coming up to the intersection on both the Pioneer Road and Ortigolita Road intersection legs. Installs the ADA curb ramps at each corner, and it does also include the Class 1 bi-directional path on those roadway approaches. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Nicole. Thank you.
And thanks, Ryan, for providing the details for the project. So city staff has worked with the consultant to prepare and submit the Cmac grant application, which we did on June 30th, 2021. Following the submittal of the application, the Cmac committee included the city project in the MCAG formal amendment to the 2021 Federal Transportation Improvement Program. On August 20, 2021, the board adopted the Cmac program of projects, including this particular signalization project. At the same meeting, the MCAG board also approved the $1.5 million funding allocation for this project. Next slide, please. So just to recap, the MCAG board has already approved the $1.5 million Cmac funding for this signalization project. $200,000 will go towards right-of-way evaluation in fiscal year 2022-2023. The remaining $1.3 million will be allocated for construction in fiscal year 2023-2024. In addition to the $1.5 million Cmac dollars, the California Transportation Commission will be taking action to allocate an additional $1.5 million for this project for construction. All local funds that may be required for this project will come from non-city funding sources, such as Measure B, Regional, Highway Infrastructure Program, HIP, and the Local Partnership Program. Based on the funding sources listed above, implementation of the Phase 1 signalization project will not require city funding contribution. Next slide, please. In conclusion, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt the resolution authorizing the acting city manager to execute the Cmac assurance for timely project delivery form for the City of Los Banos Pioneer Road Ortigolita Road signalization project. By signing the assurance form, the city is accepting the $1.5 million Cmac funding, agrees to deliver the project in a timely manner, and that all project delivery deadlines for all project phases will be met or exceeded. This concludes our presentation, and Ryan and I are both available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I will now go through council for questions and comments. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is one of those projects where, you know, I'm kind of torn between it. I see the usefulness of this in the future. Right now, you know, we don't have a heavy amount of traffic on Pioneer Road, but we will as development grows. And it's kind of one of those things, if we don't accept the free funding on this to get this to make this happen, we're gonna have to pay for it through our local dollars in the future. So I'm for this project, just because if we don't use this money for this, we're gonna lose it, and it's gonna cost us even more in the future. So I think this is great that this kind of fell into our lap here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Lambert?
I was wondering if she could verify the funding again, that the city, it's coming from the HIP is where the funding, not from our city resources?
That is correct. Yes, so there will be no city fund transfers required for this project. We would be getting the asset without having to make a city contribution.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I submitted a schematic to our acting city manager this afternoon for view of the council. Are we prepared to put that up on the screen?
Councilmember, give me 2 seconds to get that
Sure.
back up.
No problem.
Sonia, can you bring back the page that had the overall design while I bring up the other? You'll see in one of the inserts for the overall design of the page, there's an insert in the top right corner that has a basic breakdown of what the plan is designed to look like. That's not the final piece of the puzzle yet, but it's what the schematic is set to look like. You have to forgive me. Councilmember, do you, yeah, that there. I don't have the Clovis rendering. It won't populate on my screen for some reason. Give me a moment. If you'd like to continue with your conversation, Councilmember.
Sure, I'll continue with it while you're working on that. And within the description of this, one of the questions that I have for staff and for our agency that's working with us, what you're presenting to us tonight, is this the final of what the city is expected to see? Or will there be some modifications of perhaps the cross-section of the Class 1 bike lane, or any modifications at all? Or is what you're giving us tonight the final phase of what is going to be done?
So I can try to answer.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Ed, if you'd like to.
Sure thing. My name's Ed Noriega. Ryan went too fast early and wouldn't allow me to. He can give me a chance to actually turn on my camera and my mic. But you may have met me before. We had presented with Mr. Pesich a while ago on the overall project. We understand for that overall project, we still have to get through traffic to define those improvements. And so we're working towards that. Now, for this particular project, I did see the rendering that was provided. And if you'll notice, on that rendering, it's slightly different than what we have that was presented this evening. But what was presented this evening was just an initial take of what this intersection may look like. We have the ability to make some revisions on what those improvements are. The consistencies associated with what was shown this evening and the rendering is that the class 1 trail on one side of the road that's separated from the roadway, and the roadway lanes. Through the traffic study that we're currently undertaking for the city, we still need to define how many lanes will be on that roadway. So the traffic lanes on this rendering shown here, there's basically one lane in each direction with a two-way left turn lane in the middle. Then off to the, if you would imagine that you're maybe looking easterly along the corridor here, if this is Pioneer Road, the right side of this rendering would be on the county's half of the roadway, while the left side would be on the city's half of the roadway. And the path here shown on the left side, basically there are two paths here. One is a class 1 bicycle path here that's in gray, and another path that's just off to the left of that, which is an equestrian path, which is it's not asphalt or concrete. And so the difference between what we shared this evening and this cross section would be, on the left side here, it would only be one trail, a multi-use trail along the left side of the north side of Pioneer Road, instead of two of them, which is, in this case, this is a a multi-use trail and an equestrian trail. Then on the roadway, what we had shared were 2 lanes in each direction, because that was the initial path that the city was taking, but we understand that that still needs to be fine-tuned based on traffic. So it's still at the very early stages of defining the project for that intersection, and we'll be undertaking that here in the near future. So still subject to change, Council Member.
And I appreciate you describing this scenario that's on the screen right now. It was an example that I found from Clovis, the city of Clovis. The way they handle things is that it's master planned out, and I don't know that we're at the master plan stage right now, but certainly what it gives the council and the members of our community is a clear picture of what they expect something to look like. Generally what we get are, you know, these small mock-ups like this, and I want to see the direction change as to how we present things to our council. The reason I brought this up is not because it's 1 lane, 4 lanes, or anything like that, but I wanted to show something as to whether or not this bike lane was considered a Class 1 bike lane, because most people in the community, including council, you know, we need to be clear on what a Class 1, Class 2, Class 3 bike lane is. And by showing these type of examples will help us better. We need to start including our landscaping in, what our tree approvals are, what our plant approvals are, so that everybody is clear in the understanding of it. So it wasn't that I was looking to present something that I wanted our street to look like this, but to make sure that we had a Class 1 bike lane that had some separation from the road, where the bicyclists felt safe, and as well as the pedestrians, if there's going to be a pedestrian walkway that in those areas, so that they would be safe as well, and not have our typical bike lane that's flowing in traffic and sidewalks that don't have buffer zones. So, you know, this, to me, this is an example of a good buffer zone with sidewalks on the right side of the screen, and your Class 1, I assume this is a Class 1 bike lane on the left side. And in this particular scenario for this project, it shows it's almost like a community walk path for people, you know, to walk their dogs and such on. But again, you know, this whole project has been master planned out. It's on their website, and I'm hoping that we'll get to this point where we get this information on our website so that everybody has an opportunity to see it and know what is going to be produced in our city and what we expect, and not just something that's one-dimensional on a piece of paper and we have to guess what it's going to be. And that's my whole reason for having this put up there, was to make sure that our public sees it, and to make sure that we're moving in this type of direction where we're going to master plan out stuff and make sure that what we've approved is what we see. So, you know, I'm excited about this. I know that it's going to take a while to get where we're going, and things can be changed, but I would like to see something finalized as we move forward about what this street is going to look like along with the streetscape, so that we're very clear about what it is the City Council is going to approve. And I know tonight is just about approving to accept the grants, but I wanted to throw this in ahead of time so there's no surprises going forward as this whole project is designed, that it's just going to be a one-dimensional thing that the council is getting that we have to approve.
Absolutely. If I may, we're in the very early stages of the project. As you may recall, the city had adopted a specific plan for Pioneer Road that defined what the alignment that was chosen for Pioneer Road, as well as the elements, conceptual elements of the improvements on Pioneer Road, the number of lanes, where medians would be, as well as the Class 1 separated path from the roadway that runs along the north side of Pioneer Road. So the backbone of what the city's trying to deliver has been adopted. And now as we move forward through the environmental process, one of the first elements that we needed to get through is to understand what the future traffic looks like along Pioneer Road, so that we can define whether it needs to be a 4-lane road or if 2 lanes would be enough. And so once we present that information, we're scheduled to do that at the beginning of 2022, present to you what the traffic looks like, what the forecasted traffic looks like, and what the facility would be needed. That way we can define the roadway and start showing the elements in better detail that you're expecting. And I can assure you that as we move forward with the project, there would be graphics that would help the community understand what the proposed improvements would look like.
And with that, when you bring the proposals with the graphics to council, there is room there for some aesthetic changes that the council
Absolutely.
may desire to have.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was it for me. Thank you for engaging, and thank you to our acting city manager for being able to get this picture up so that it gave a bit more information to the council as to what I was trying to say. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Very good. Mr. Yamas, any comment or question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Lewis, for that visual aid. It's very helpful in understanding to conceptualize what the project, or an idea as to what the project may look like. I've got a couple questions. Now, will there be merge lanes or the possibility of adding merge lanes to this, or will these be hard right-hand turns from this intersection?
When you refer to merge lanes, you're talking about the lanes departing the intersection?
No, as you come to approach the intersection, you come to a stop and you're going to make a right-hand turn. Do you have to make a hard right angle turn, or will there be a possibility of having a merge lane to merge onto the crossing street?
Gotcha. So my recommendation, especially for that's subject to depending on how the city wants to define that. But my recommendation, since this will be we'll have a Class 1 trail, ped traffic in the area, bicycles in the area, and you have active development in the area, it would be important to make sure that traffic is calm and slow in the area. And if it's a merge lane, a large radius turn, that allows for higher speed movement through an intersection. So my recommendation in how to handle that is to tighten it up and have a harder 90-degree turn. That way, the motorists would be encouraged to actually slow down, stop at the intersection before they make that right turn movement.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I understand what you're saying there. But the idea here is to improve traffic flow, and having the merge lanes will get to that end state, which again is the overall intent of this project. Is that not correct?
It's are you talking about the overall project or the intersection?
Well, this intersection is part of the overall project. The overall project is to improve traffic flow, and having a merge lane will help improve that traffic flow by having everybody come to a stop where vehicles are 2 or 3 behind. Somebody wants to make a right-hand turn, but they have to wait until they get to that point where the light turns green for them to get there. So then again, you have that domino effect where people are backed up, and it's not creating that flow that we're trying to create here.
It's a trade-off. So it's a trade-off of the operations at the intersection, which is if you can get traffic through there faster, and balancing the safety of the other users of the intersection, such as pedestrians, cyclists, and whatnot. And so normally for areas where it's becoming more populated, then you try to reduce the size of those turning radiuses, mainly because it makes it safer. Now, for right turn movements, the way you handle that is it still needs to be safe for any of those conflict points when pedestrians interact with cars. That needs to be the #1 goal at the intersection. Then it's looking at how to make it operate faster. And so to make it operate better, there are ways to adjust the signalization of the intersection to provide that green time for where the demand is. So there are ways to make it operate optimally as well as make it safe. But what we don't want to do is just to design it to where it makes it difficult to balance the safety because speed is more important. One of the other elements at this location also, if I may add, is as we go through and look at how the project would be defined, is that maybe it's not a signal that you need here. It could be a roundabout, and which operates a lot more efficient than a signal. So those are options that we can look at to make sure that you're getting the project that the city wants. You have a lot of ability to direct how this project goes. But our role is to make sure you understand the trade-offs of items that you may prefer at the location.
And I guess that was the ultimate, is that we think about other ideas, other ways to manage that traffic flow at this intersection, and not just have a cookie cutter approach to it. Absolutely. Which it seems like you're down that path, so thank you very much for that. Now, one thing that I'm concerned about this overall project is that I don't know that it's going to have the amount of use that we have. Again, because we have Cardozo Road, which parallels it almost half the length of the Pioneer project. So that's going to lessen the amount of folks that are going to travel further south in order to access that, potentially $86 million project. So some concerns there. Also, last question or concern is, right now as Pioneer Road sits, when this signalization of this intersection is started, is it going to have to be shifted further south in order to accommodate that 4-lane? And how are the approaches to this intersection going to be engineered? Is there going to be somewhat of a turn so that it goes into the 4-lane intersection? And so how much more has that been incorporated into this plan? So we can't really answer the details of whether the intersection shifts one way or the other yet at this point. The closest thing we have on how the project is defined right now is the specific plan that was developed over the past couple of years that was adopted by the city, I think about 6 months ago. And so that's the concept that has been prepared at this point. Now, once we get into the environmental process and start looking at what resource might be impacted, then we can start adjusting how the overall project sits, and how that also, what the interaction is between the overall project and this particular project that the funding is trying to be secured for. So they will be coordinated. So we're not there yet, basically.
We're not there yet.
Okay, perfect. All right, I appreciate your time. Appreciate the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Yamas. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out, how this works out. I personally am not too terribly fond of roundabouts, but that's just a personal preference of mine. But getting a signal there, the traffic does get quite heavy there during rush times, particularly from the schools and people using it to, of course, avoid the traffic on Pacheco. So, all right, we've had question and answer. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve City Council Resolution number 6403. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve, a motion to approve resolution number 6403 as read by title.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lewis, second by Councilmember Lambert to approve City Council Resolution number 6403 as read. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for the presentation. Thank you for all the visuals. It sure helps a lot. We will now move on to item 8, consideration of approval of City Council Resolution number 6404, appointing a city manager and approving and authorizing the execution of the city manager employment agreement. For that, we go to City Attorney Vaughn.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Good evening, everybody. At your direction, staff is bringing forward Resolution 6404, which for your consideration, which does two things. It appoints Mr. Josh Pinero as the next city manager, and it also approves the attached employment agreement that has been negotiated with him. The resolution is pretty straightforward. I will go over the highlights of the employment agreement. The employment agreement is for a 3-year term, which will commence, assuming you approve it tonight, would commence tonight. He would be getting an annual base salary of $195,486. Would not be receiving a COLA during the life of the contract, but he would be entitled to 2.5% step increases at the 1-year anniversary of the agreement and at the second anniversary of the agreement. Generally speaking, he would be entitled to all of the fringe benefits that other management employees are receiving, such as retirement, health, those types of things. Specific to the city manager that aren't provided to the other managerial employees would be the $400 a month car allowance, the $100 per month cell phone allowance, and the one-time relocation payment of $2,500. I have Mr. Pinero's in agreement with the employment agreement as attached to the resolution. In fact, he has signed it already and providing it to you for your consideration tonight. I'm here to answer any other questions. And I believe there is a comment from the public on this item as well.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. We'll go to Ms. Maloney for the public comment.
I've received one letter and it begins, Dear Mayor and Council, as you have probably heard, our city of 40,000 is all a buzz. I also wanted to join in the debate, but I would rather take it straight to the source. To start, we hire a consultant firm at $30,000. They do their job and bring forth applicants that meet our stated requirements. This contract also gives us coverage that if not happy with hire, they recommend we can look again at no charge. We start interviews, then Brett brings in a college friend, and with his salesmanship, all of a sudden experience in running a city is not our biggest concern. We want someone who hasn't been a government person, someone who thinks outside of the box without knowing anything about the box. Stopping interviews, we hire at $195,000 plus moving expenses, medical, retirement, and various other perks. With Newsom staying in office, there is a chance of another closure, increased taxes, and less state help for our city. Also, a harder time for our businesses and citizens. Past loans that were on hold is now due. This is a hefty price. I know in budget this year, what about next? And if changes are made without tax increase to increase our income. We can't just say, que sera, sera. We need to look in all directions. a concerned citizen, Kathy Mallory.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney. All right. We will now go to council comment and questions. Mr. Jones?
No comments or questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Lambert?
No comments here, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Mr. Yamas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The comments from the citizen are well received, understood. What I think that the process was conducted with the city's best interests at heart. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And before I call for a motion, Mr. Pinheiro brings with him something unique, and that is that he grew up in Los Banos, understands Los Banos' needs, challenges, understands the people. He has connections to the business world. We've been talking a lot about bringing living wage jobs, more living wage jobs to Los Banos. And Mr. Pinheiro's connections and his, of course, I've known Mr. Pinheiro for a very long time. He was in school with my daughters, and he is of the highest integrity. He is highly intelligent, and he is highly motivated. So we'll look for him to bring those attributes to our city and make our city a better place. And so we will welcome Mr. Pinheiro with the approval of this contract this evening. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 6404 as read by title.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, Councilmember Lambert will second that.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. I have a motion by Mayor Tim Lewis and a second by Councilmember Lambert to approve City Council Resolution number 6404 as read. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Bones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes. Motion carried unanimously. Welcome, Mr. Pinheiro, as our new city manager.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Pinheiro on with us this evening? I don't think I've seen him.
I think Mr. Pinheiro had a conflict in his calendar and was not going to be able to attend.
All right, very good. So I would have invited him to say a few words. All right. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Thank you, staff, and thank you, council. We will now move on to the COVID-19 status update with Acting City Manager Breezy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you. Tonight I'll keep the presentation somewhat brief, and instead of focusing on the numbers, I'm going to focus more on where you can get tested and where you can get vaccinated. The sad truth is that COVID is continuing to be problematic for our community, our county, and our state. In a lot of different areas that we generally look to as far as rates and percentages, they're all up. Our ICU capacity is down, which means there's less availability. Our daily cases per 100,000 residents is up from the last time we checked. Obviously, number of cases and sadly the number of deaths in our county and our community have just continued to increase. So we would continue to encourage community members to do what they can to protect themselves and their families from the COVID disease. We'll talk a little bit about testing tonight in that slide. You can get tested at the Los Banos Fairgrounds at 403 F Street Monday and Wednesday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The most important part about that is calling to make a reservation at 888-634-1123. And this slide, along with some other information regarding COVID, where you can get tested and vaccinated, will be up on the city's social media, city's Facebook page, the City Hall Facebook page come tomorrow morning. But it's important that you get tested so you can find out early if you're transmissible or if you can pass the illness on to others. You can get vaccinated in a number of different places. A lot of healthcare providers, personal healthcare providers, have the ability to provide the vaccine. There's also a website run through the Merced County Department of Public Health called Vaccinate Merced County. It's all one word, Vaccinate Merced County. If you go there, it'll take you to a webpage called myturn.ca.gov, which will allow you to schedule an appointment to get the vaccine. So that's the important message for tonight is please continue to stay safe, protect yourself and your family from the COVID disease because it is unfortunately a killer. It has taken many lives in our community, in our state and country. It is a real illness that we all should be concerned with. Again, for vaccines, go to myturn.ca.gov or vaccinatemercedcounty.gov. And for testing, you can contact ihi.care/COVID testing. On a bit of good news, the number of individuals vaccinated in Merced County continues to go up. And right now we're sitting at 233 doses of vaccine have been given out to community members in our county. And when you consider that our population of Merced County is at approximately 285,000 people, 233 doses is a good thing. I think we're still sitting at about 37%, 36 to 37% of total vaccinated people who have completed the vaccination process at this point in Merced County. It's a little on the low side when you look at the valley, but we're not the lowest in the Central Valley of California by any stretch. So continue to tell your friends and family to get vaccinated, to get tested, and take care of themselves. I see a question from Councilmember Lambert. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Breezy. Is it possible that we can get some approximately where we're at of active cases just for today? Not from the past, but active today.
Yes. If you go to the Merced County Public Health dashboard for COVID-19, it says currently that there are approximately 1,896 total probable active cases. Let me say that again. 1,896 total probable active cases in Merced County currently.
Is there an age group that they're given on that, or is it just that number?
No, that's all tested.
The total.
That does not know. The question of more specific information in regards to COVID illness and symptoms, and those who are vaccinated versus unvaccinated for the positivity rate, those are a little bit harder to come by. I do see that there is a separate statistic on the county page that talks about pediatric probable active currently. And pediatric is defined as anyone under the age 17 or under, and that's 614 currently. And just a bit further on that comment, council member, is that if you look at the number of active outbreaks in Merced County currently, and an outbreak is listed as defined as anytime there are 3 or more unrelated laboratory confirmed cases linked to a workplace facility within a 2-week period, what you'll see is that there are a large number of our school sites countywide that are affected by outbreaks. So that number of pediatric cases, I suspect, is probably going to stay the same, if not go up. Good question, Councilman.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from Mr. Breezy? Thank you, Mr. Breezy. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy. We got to end this COVID-19 thing so we can get on with our world and our lives. Number 10, item 10, advisement of public notices. And for that, we have one report this evening. And we go to Community and Economic Development Director, Banos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will be holding a public hearing on Wednesday, September 22nd, virtually via Zoom. It is for vesting tentative tract map 2021-01 and for a final development plan 2021-01 and associated development agreement for the Villages 5 at Stone Creek Quail Meadows development. The project is generally located west of the village's 2A and 3 subdivision. To put that in easier context, it is just southwest of Walmart. And folks familiar with the Old World's Fair building, it would be south of that, but east of the Los Banos Creek. The project consists of a subdivision of approximately 70.5 acres and would subdivide it into 271 single-family residential lots. It does have a final development plan, which will require consistency of site design and conceptual architecture to implement the plan development zoning. Both the final development plan and development agreement will be brought forward to the City Council as the Planning Commission is only a recommending body for those entitlements. And again, the public hearing will be held on Wednesday, September 22nd at 6 p.m. virtually on the Zoom platform. And I do want to reiterate that this particular development is a continuation of the Stone Creek South Area Plan that was annexed and adopted into the city in 2002, so the early 2000s. And this is a plan that has been developed out in phases. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. And just to note for the public, that land, that housing subdivision, that land has all been annexed in the past, correct? That's already annexed.
Right, since 2002.
Okay, so that's been annexed for nearly 20 years. All right, very good, thank you. Next item is a report on Merced County Association of Governments, Peninsula Clean Energy and Measure V, comes to me. The MCAG and Measure V committee, that is primarily our roads, and we had a discussion of that in the council meeting today, and that's a pretty good update about what's going on there. That's signalization and planning for those intersections. Peninsula Clean Energy is still looking for a new person to replace the community outreach specialist. That position is still open for a few more days, and it's a wonderful position, someone that wants to reach out. Also, we are working, if you go to Peninsula Clean Energy page, they're working now to offer programs, electrification programs to Los Banos, as well as the Peninsula cities that are part of that, part of the Peninsula Clean Energy organization. So they're working very hard to reach out to Los Banos to make sure that we benefit as much as we possibly can from our membership in that organization. Right. And so now we will go to item 13, our city council member reports. And first will be Mr. Lambert.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Mayor Pro Tem Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to report that this Saturday on September 11th, the Arts Council Quilt organization, as they normally do each year, had a hometown hero ceremony wherein they honored our veterans and our first responders throughout the county and within the city. There were some 13 quilts that were handed out, and it's always a beautiful ceremony. And also on this date, of course, it fell on 9/11, and it had some somberness to it, but it was a beautiful ceremony overall for those who served our country and for our first responders that serve us currently in our cities and in our county. And then the last thing I'd like to just follow up on is at our last meeting, I had requested that the shopping cart ordinance be brought back. And I'm hoping that that will be on our next agenda coming up for the next council meeting. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Yamas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I had a comment, I forgot to mention it to Mrs. Banos about hoping that we can start looking at a northern thoroughfare to relieve some of the traffic to the north. But other than that, I have no report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Yamas. Mr. Jones.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I will make a little comment there on the Quilts of Valor, the September 11th ceremony. One of our own assistant, our assistant fire chief, Mr. Straub, was honored with a quilt, and I was able to present that, and it was very great opportunity for me, having known him for so many years. So congratulations, well earned, Assistant Chief Straub. Next week, we're going to have the salute to seniors. It's on Friday, the 25th, a week from Friday, at the community center. And last week, we had the Downtown Association dinner where we honored Louis and Barbara Pereira. And that was a great honor for me to be able to do that and issue a proclamation. Remind everyone that both fire and police are selling cancer awareness t-shirts. You can go to the fire station or the police station and pick one up. I think they're $20 a piece. Finally, Chamber of Commerce has a street fair coming up on October 3rd, so you can start marking your calendars. All right. Now we will go into closed session. And for that, we have a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9, one potential case. And we will report out after the closed session. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good night. Hello, everyone. We are out of closed session, and we do have a reportable action. By a 5-0 vote, the City Council approved a settlement agreement with Allied Waste Services of North America, LLC, the city's prior solid waste hauler. The settlement resolves and closes out Allied's recently expired solid waste franchise. In part, the agreement requires Allied to pay the city $600,000. The city anticipates using these funds to rebate solid waste customers affected by service disruptions in late 2020 and spring 2021. The agreement was made without any admission of liability or fault by either party. And direction was given to staff regarding possible refunds to customers, or I should say rebates. Thank you for joining us this evening. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, Councilmember Lambert, make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, you almost here. I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Lambert and a second by Councilmember Yamas to adjourn the meeting. Roll call. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Yamas?
Yes.
And Mayor Faria, yes. Meeting adjourned at 7:56 p.m. Thank you for joining us. Good night.